Do me for hold this L.
Hold this L.
Hold this L.
All right, welcome to Hold This Cell with your host, Lonnie and Cappel. What's going on, cuz? What's going on with you today?
Oh man, what up? What up, man? Not too much, bro. Been kicking back, watching a little basketball. Getting ready to watch this NBA Finals. Not too much, man. How about you?
I've been doing good. I've been following my fantasy, and I had a pretty good day, man. We could talk about it on Wednesday. Well, when I show later on in the week. I don't want to go too far into fantasy, but we can do a little recap about our scores and stuff. But I'm doing pretty good. Got a couple of games still on, I think, or they just ended. I got to go and check out what my final winnings is, but so far so good. What about you?
Oh man, it was kind of a struggle for me today. I'll be honest. I didn't do too well. Picked a lot of the right players, just didn't put them in the right spots or put them together. Like I said, I kind of stacked that Cowboys game, stacked the Seattle game. Cowboys, Dak Prescott. I mean, my highest score had Dak in my starting lineup with 158, but it just didn't go. It was actually kind of what me and you talked about. Um, the Kamara Cook
Hmm.
combination. That was my highest score in total, and of course, I had CD Lamb. You know how I feel about him. I also had Tyler Boyd.
Hmm.
All in one lineup, but it kind of burned me because I also paired CD Lamb with Gallup.
Yeah.
That didn't work too well. And I mean, I went with a flyer. James Robinson ended up being a decent pick. I went with the Rams defense that ended up being a decent pick. Um, TJ Hawkinson was a decent pick for me. He got in the end zone, but he didn't do. I mean, 2 receptions for 9 yards and a touchdown ain't great. So
Yeah.
thank God he
That
got that. So
touchdown saved your pick.
it was everything right. So,
Yeah.
but other than that, no, it wasn't too good of a day for me, man. I'm hoping I make up something in this late slate single game basketball.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got information from all three sports. Go ahead and get it kicked off with some Major League Baseball. The playoffs just started last week. We already got past the wild card wild card round. Sorry, and we down from 16 to 18. So before we go into football and basketball, let's go ahead and revisit our picks. So earlier this year, we both said that the Yankees and Dodgers would be in the playoffs. That was both of our picks, and they both in the playoffs, and they both in the NLDS. So I mean, what's your pick? You changing anything, or you still feeling pretty confident about that?
No, I'm steadfast. Dodgers. I'm going Dodgers all the way.
Yeah.
Of course, I do still think it'll be Yankees Dodgers, but I'm gonna take the Dodgers over the Yankees, man. I know that's kind of to the opposite of what but I got to be contrarian with this one.
Well, this is it's only contrarian towards me. It ain't contrarian towards the rest of the world because the
I
Dodgers
know.
are the favorite to win the World Series. So it's definitely in the great sense of that, I'm the contrarian one because a lot of people don't even pick the Yankees to make it. A lot of people looking at Tampa Bay, which I'm a little worried about Tampa Bay because why they don't have a lot of firepower on the offensive end, they have some firepower on the pitching staff with Glasgow, Snell, and Charlie Morton. So that 1-2-3 punch. It's a pretty good 1-2-3 punch. But yeah, I'm still Yankees Dodgers, and I'm Yankees to the heart. So I'm like Aaron Judge came back just in nick of time. Got Luke Voigt killing it. Stanton, played well in the first series. So I'm definitely Yankees all the way to the heart, and I feel like they're gonna represent the American League in the World Series and bring home that trophy. But outside of that, we don't have a lot of baseball news. It's gonna get a little juicy as we get close to the World Series. But what we do have is some football news. And before we, of course, we had a lot of action today. Great group of games. The game that everybody was looking forward to today, we didn't really get to see, which is the Chiefs and the Patriots. You know, that game is actually postponed to tomorrow, but a little bit of that excitement, that luster that we was looking forward to is not going to be there because Cam Newton tested positive for COVID, and he's going to be out for a number of days. while he quarantines and gets healthy. And prayers up to him. Make sure that he makes it through this without any issues in his family. But man, how does that affect the Patriots moving forward, in your opinion?
Um, I think it affects them. It definitely affects them tomorrow. Obviously, I predicted Cam, them keeping, using Cam's legs to try to keep Kansas City off the field. I thought that was going to be an integral part to them actually even being in the game or competing, and not having Cam Newton. I think it kind of blows it all up. And I mean, let's just be honest, it's Jared Stidham. So I mean, what do I think? I think they're going to annihilate them. I think the interest and everything, but you know, as I'm saying this, it kind of reminds me or allows me to realize the impact Cam Newton has, or what one player can have on an entire football game. You take him off the field, and it's like this is not even a football game anymore. Before that, I mean, you thinking it'd probably be a battle, could possibly be a good game. So it's pretty impressive to me, Cam Newton, with the injuries and all the stuff he's been through over the last couple of years, to still have that kind of an impact on a football game.
Yeah. I think that's the consensus amongst football fans, is that this is no longer a must watch game because Cam Newton is out. But I beg to differ. I think it is a must watch game because the mastermind behind the success of that team is not Cam Newton, it's Bill Belichick. Patrick Mahomes is 2-0. I mean, is 0-2 against the Patriots. And I definitely think that this game is important to him, regardless if it's Cam Newton behind center or whoever. I think it's going to be Brian Hoyer is expected to start. And people don't realize this, but sometimes like that messes with your psyche. It remains to be seen if it will or will not. But I think Bill Belichick gonna come through with a nice defensive package against Holmes. And while I think that the Kansas City Chiefs, I say Mahomes, I'm sorry. While I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win, I thought it was going to win with Cam Newton. I just thought it was going to be a good game. But it's going to be interesting because if the Patriots are going to be able to stay close with the Chiefs, say they win by a touchdown, well, now the story is going to be, what if Cam Newton was there? Would they have still won that game? It was so close. So it's going to make for some interesting conversation for the remainder of this league, for the remainder of this year, as we go into the playoffs, later on, because we anticipate that both of these teams will be in the playoffs. And so, but outside of that, another issue with COVID was the Titans and Pittsburgh Steelers game, which they had so many Titans test positive that they could not even reschedule the game for this week. So this week will serve as the bye week for these teams, and they will play again later on in the year. I think it's like week 12 or 13 or something like that. So that may have affected a lot of people's lineups. It affected mine as far as Derrick Henry, because I have him in one of my main leagues that I play in. But it doesn't seem to matter because I had some people come through and it looked like I'm gonna get the W. So I'm not really tripping. But some people probably suffered some losses because they had Derrick Henry in their leagues that didn't play, or Ben Roethlisberger or James Conner. But outside of that, let's talk about COVID. Like, this is the first major outbreak. Do you think the NFL is handling this the right way?
Absolutely. I think they're doing a great job actually, in the multiple testing. And that's why I was actually talking to somebody earlier in the week that, you know, the reason, even talking about the Patriots game and everything, I love how the NFL is not overreacting or underreacting. They waited, they tested more people, they did several testing back-to-back days before they made a decision to reschedule. I think they've handled it great as far as being on top of it and grasping it before it gets bad, and not taking it as serious. But they have taken it serious. They jumped right on it, got on it. And I think they're doing a hell of a job as far as containing it. Even with the Titans, all the Titans players that ended up testing positive, you had no players on the opposite team that they played test positive. So those type of things, I feel like the league is doing a really good job as far as limiting, the exposure. Right now, out of all the teams and all the players that they have, as of right now, we can only say it's one team that's significantly paying for it. as actually having an issue. Even with the Patriots and Cam Newton, it was only him so far as we know, but they've done multiple tests for multiple days, and it's still, that's why they rescheduled it for Monday as soon, because nobody else has tested positive. So, with that being said, I think the NFL is doing a great job.
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job as well. Hopefully, this is one of those situations where they nip it in the bud. They seem to have control of it, and we can move forward without any cases. It was amazing. They were talking about earlier how they were saying it was amazing that none of the Minnesota Vikings players tested positive, and they played against the Titans. And what I heard was that this is like they're gonna talk to the staff in Minnesota and see what it is that they're doing, because it's like a case study, to see like what are you doing that allowed your players to not test positive when they were exposed to the Titans players who had so many people test positive, and this is a contact sport. So that's also good news. Maybe Minnesota is doing something really, really significant that they can pass on to the rest of the teams. Although there's not an outbreak of the NFL, maybe they can pass on some of the pointers that they're using to stay safe. Outside of that, before we move on to basketball, I do want to point out some players who are just on top of their game. And I know I talked about Josh Allen from a fantasy perspective, but now I got to talk about him from just a football perspective. The kid is a beast. Last year people talked about playing him fantasy wise because, of course, he gave you points. He made mistakes. He couldn't really close games against good teams. But he used his legs a lot. He ran the ball, and he gave you points. So he was definitely somebody to play in fantasy. But he's just winning right now. He's playing very well. And you can say that they hadn't really played anybody. The Rams are not like a top-notch team, even though they beat them last week. And they played the Raiders today, and they played the Jets, and they played the Dolphins. So if you want to say they ain't played an upper echelon team, fine. I give you that. That's not even a lie. But he could play bad in those games, and then we would definitely have our opinion. So I'm going to give him props. Well deserved. He is doing his thing. I look forward to seeing him play against teams that we consider to be really good teams. And Alvin Kamara, I mean, man, we already knew what he was, but he is taking over as the man on that offense. He had another great game. Drew Brees did play well today, but Alvin Kamara had another great game. A lot of times you see these players get their contract and then they kind of fall off. It's like he elevating. He got his money right before the season started, and it's like he's elevating and playing even better. Still got a lot of football left, but I like the way he's playing. And shout out to a couple of rookies. Justin Jefferson, who had his breakout game last week, and he played well again today, went over 100 yards, Minnesota Vikings. And CeeDee Lamb, while his name has been in the news, he finally, had a really big game with 2 touchdowns, even though the Cowboys are trash. They let the Cleveland Browns put up 49, almost a 50 burger on them. Man. And I was talking all that noise about Dallas having a good defense. I mean, not a good defense, but playing well against Cleveland because Baker Mayfield makes mistakes if they put pressure on him. Boy, was I wrong. I'm telling you, I will take the credit when I'm right, but I will also let you know when I'm wrong. I'm not going to act like I wasn't. And I was way off on that one. If you listen to me and you chose Dallas Cowboys, I'm sorry. That's all I can say is I'm sorry, because that was – you got negative points on that one for sure if you played them. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb, he had a great game today. If you played him in fantasy, I think there's somebody that both me and Lonnie talked up. He did great. Anybody you want to highlight in football before we move on to basketball?
Yes, there is one person I want to highlight. I gotta say it, and it might be more of a punch than anything like a low blow, but it's really not. Drew Brees completed several passes over 20 yards today. I say several. What I mean by several, I saw like 2 or 3. And if you've been watching Drew Brees over the last couple of years, 2 or 3 passes down the field for over 20 yards at this point can qualify as several. So I was just impressed. Today he looked like Drew Brees. He was throwing the ball accurately. He was throwing people open. He was throwing it down the field, 20-plus yards. So, I mean, I was very impressed to see how Drew Brees looked today, not knowing if that was a product of who they were playing or if I don't know, but he looked great. He really did.
Yeah, probably a combination of both. I think Drew Brees could throw the ball down the field more than people think. I think that offense. I think he's in the place right now where he takes what the defense gives him because he's no longer that a quarterback where people are going to gamble. They're going to respect him because of who he is. So they make sure that they cover the deep ball. Even though we hear people say that all the time. His got noodle on Drew Brees, noodle on Drew Brees. Can he throw like he used to? No. But he can give you about a good 20, 30 yards down the field, but that's not usually available when you play the Saints. They cover that because they know that Sean Payton can, is a good offensive play caller and got a good offense or whatever. And it don't come and go. He can't throw for 20 yards, throw 3 or 4 for 20 today and then next week all of a sudden his arm won't let him. That's not how it works. So a lot of that is dependent upon the play calling and taking what's being given. And like you said, there was also some of that was Detroit. If your team sucks in pass coverage, that does make it easier for you to push the ball down the field. And Detroit does suck when it comes to the pass coverage. So, yeah, on to what the main event is because that's we're in the finals of NBA. And before we even get to the finals, let's just talk about some news in the NBA. So we got, and I don't want to get into, well, you know what, we can just let it go where it goes because even though this year is not over with, it's definitely something to look forward to thinking about next year. We haven't had free agency, so that's something, but this is a big move. The Philadelphia 76ers signed Doc Rivers. I need to know what you think about that.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I think they finally got a coach that can do something with the players they have. Look, I don't think by any means, we kind of talked about it a little bit on the last show, but I don't think Doc Rivers was the reason the Clippers failed. I think most of us would agree to that. So with that being said, I think Philadelphia just hit the lotto. You just went from Brett Brown to Doc Rivers.
Yes.
You just hit the lottery. So what do I expect? I expect to see big things going forward with the Philadelphia 76ers. That's definitely what I expect. I think it's a great signing. And I expect them to do great things with that young talent they got over there.
I expect the same. And I'm gonna go even further and say the Eastern Conference champs next year would be the 76ers. And of course, if y'all been listening, y'all know I got a little sweet spot in my heart for the 76ers because Ben Simmons is family. But that pick is not just based off of that. It's also based off of the fact that they have, when you talk about the 1-2 punches in the league, they have two of the best 1-2 punches in Embiid and Ben Simmons. Then if you talk about the Eastern Conference, what 1-2 punch is better than Embiid and Ben Simmons? When you talk about talent, like they have the best 1-2 punch in the Eastern Conference. Then you bring in a proven coach like Doc Rivers, and also you got to think about the fact that he's going to bring in free agents. He's always been able to bring in free agents. He's worked with Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris had his best years when he was with Doc Rivers over with the Clippers. So I feel like they're going to be able to bring in some pieces in free agency. Hopefully, some role players that can hit big shots. They're missing some 3-point shooters. But the most important thing is I feel like he's going to be a great mentor to Ben Simmons because Doc Rivers was a point guard. People don't realize that. He played the guard position. And Ben Simmons came into this year. A lot of people was like, he's working on his three. He's showing footage on his Instagram, shooting the three. People seeing footage of him shooting the three. Even before we came back from the bubble, people was like, oh, he's working on his three in the bubble in practice for the season. And he still didn't take no threes, even though he got hurt. Like after a couple of games, it's like, what are you waiting on? And I heard that he was actually seeing a psychiatrist or seeing a doctor about the mental capacity, the mental part of that. Like it was something, that he had to work through mentally. And I believe it because you won't even attempt the threes in the game. Like if Ben Simmons started his career off 0 for 50, I would understand him having some, hesitation about shooting threes. He never shoots them.
Right.
he never shoots them. It's like you won't even give yourself the chance to fail,
Right.
So I feel like Doc Rivers is going to play a integral part of that. Because if you look at people who didn't shoot the three well that were really good point guards, like Rondo, he comes to mind. he still shoots. He doesn't
Right.
shoot like every single time because that's not his shot. And sometimes he's hot and it helps the team. And most times he's not. But
Right.
that's not the point. The point is he still shoots. And we know Rondo's not a good shooter because he just don't do it. How many of us know Ben Simmons not a good shooter? Like for real though. Like how many of us could say, well, he's not a good shooter because this is his percentage from here. He don't shoot.
Right.
We don't even know. So, anyways, I'm kind of going off a little bit on a tangent. But my point in all this is, I think that Doc Rivers, the addition of him, hopefully they make some good pickups in free agency, and I can definitely see him putting his philosophy on them and them taking it in and pushing forward to win the East next year. But that's a long conversation from now. And more basketball news. Did you hear about Kyrie Irving's comments? Did you hear
Yes,
what
I
he said?
did. Yes,
You
yes.
heard both of them? Did you hear both of them? So I'm gonna give you. Let's take
I'm
it comment
pretty-
by comment. I'm going to say what both of them are.
Okay.
The first one I know is this one you heard. Kyrie Irving so Kevin Durant has a new podcast, and I'm gonna actually check it out. I kind of want to hear what it's about. And I like listening to podcasts. We doing a podcast, so
Right.
so KD has a new podcast, and on this podcast he had Kyrie Irving, and the question was asked. I can't remember the exact question, but it was something pertaining to the last shot, and they didn't ask him what he responded to, but what he said was something similar to, every team I've been on, I feel like I was the person that needed to take the last shot or whatever. And finally, I'm on a team with somebody where it's like, this person can hit that shot too, and everybody was like, we know who you're talking about. Like,
Right.
we know
Right.
you're talking about LeBron. And even if you wasn't directly talking about LeBron, you're talking about him still because he was like the number one person on your team.
He was talking about LeBron.
But he also was talking, and even if he was talking about LeBron, because he didn't specify it, he took shots at everybody he played with. He took shots at Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward. He took shots at Jaylen Brown. He took shots at anybody he played with Cleveland. He took shots at his teammates before KD came with Brooklyn. So everybody has a right to be like, oh, for real? Like, that's how you feel? You know what I'm saying? So, but the thing is why say it? Like, what's the purpose? Why even make that comment?
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
Bro. Like I say, we all know who he was talking about.
Yeah.
And maybe why make the comments? We all know Kyrie got LeBron even said it. Like, the reason me and AD gel so well because we don't get jealous of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's be honest. What's one of the biggest things to get jealous of right now? You're clearly saying he's a jealous person. We all know him to be a jealous person. That's why he cried his way out of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you sitting at home. The other person you talking about that you're jealous of, two wins away from the finals. And I mean, I know the comments were made before the wins, but still, he's in the finals. You sitting at home.
Pretty much.
So I think it's just going back to what LeBron said. He's jealous.
And even if LeBron did say it, it's clear that's what it is. The man is jealous of LeBron James. It's always been that way. He was jealous when he found out LeBron was coming. Most people find out LeBron coming to their team, they'll be like, oh man, that's great. You know what I'm saying? Our chances to win the championship. This is a great player. If I'm a young player, I'm like, I can learn from him. He wasn't even on board with it. Like, from the beginning, you could tell he was thinking about himself. Like, this is going to take away from my shine. This is going to take away from what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's clearly what the thought process is. If you're not excited about a player that caliber coming to your team. And the whole time he was with them, it was together, it was issues. So it is what it is. He's a jealous type person. He's jealous, definitely jealous of LeBron James. Definitely seems like he got some hate in his heart for that guy. But the other thing about it is, while I would say, who would I choose to want to take the last shot, Kyrie or LeBron? On the surface, most people would say Kyrie because he just is a better shooter. than LeBron and most people. I mean, he can he just his skill set is so great when it comes to just basketball. Not talking about anything outside of basketball, like not leadership, not how he can galvanize the troops and bring a team together. Just talking about the actual game of basketball. His handles, the way he finishes in the paint, the way he can shoot, it's probably one of the greatest we've ever seen. To be completely honest with you, but when you look at the stats of when it comes to when you compare his stats, win of game time shots or clutch shots, which they define clutch as shots that you hit within 5 minutes with 5 minutes or lower in the fourth quarter. LeBron has over 100 more attempts and he's shooting at a higher percentage. Then if you break it down to, I think within a minute or so, where you're taking like clutch shots, clutch 3-pointers within, the final minutes of the game, LeBron still has several shots more than him. I can't remember the stats, but he also has 10%. He also shoots better, 10% better from the field than Kyrie in those moments. So what Kyrie said simply is not true. It just simply ain't even true. It's like most people probably would think that Kyrie would hit those shots more because he's just a better shooter, but LeBron is a more clutch player. LeBron is one of the most clutch players in the history of the game. If you look at the numbers, so it's just I just don't understand like why you respond to that question. The way you responded it. But this is the other comment that Kyrie made. I'm sorry, because the shit is that funny to me. I'm sorry. Kyrie Irving made a comment, and I should have pulled up the quote. I'm sorry I don't have a direct quote. I'm paraphrasing here. But he was asked about Steve Nash and the team, and he said something to the effect of, I don't even consider Steve Nash as a coach. Like, something like, we don't really need a coach. He's like, you say, I could coach, KD could coach. Like I don't see Steve Nash. I see Steve Nash as the type of person who's not going to come and push his coaching philosophy on us, and and blah 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 blah.
Yep, he's an idiot.
I'm kind of struggling for words right now,
bro.
Because what the hell does that mean? Like, who doesn't need a coach? So you just gonna call the timeouts when you feel like it? You gonna holler at your boys from the sideline and say, "Hey, go to the go to the box, take a knee, ready to come in." Like, who gonna work on the schemes and stuff when you in the game? Like, those things is not easy for you to do. To call a timeout and say, "Okay, this is what's happening." No, that's what you have a whole coaching staff for, so they can like see what the other team is doing, and then when they call a timeout, they can work on plays and say, "Okay, this is what this person is doing. This person is doing blah blah blah." You work on the X's and O's. The person that can go in the halftime and change up the scheme because they see the whole picture because they're not actually playing. Like, you gonna do that, Kyrie? Huh? You gonna do that? You don't need you don't need a coach. You and KD gonna do that? Please, y'all can't even lead a team on the court in y'all positions. You talking about leading the team to win championships?
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. I don't even have nothing to say. I don't
even have a lot to comment on that. We all look, nothing Kyrie says anymore surprises me. I'm not surprised by nothing he say. I take it with a grain of salt and roll with it. This the same person that said the earth was flat. So, I take what he says and I take it with a grain of salt, man. I don't read a whole lot into anything he says. I think he one of them people that just speaks, but he don't think. He just talks.
He clearly just talks.
So,
it's ridiculous how he just, and if you listen to him talk, like if you actually hear the words that like not like reading it or hear the reports, you actually hear him talk. He sounds like he thinks he's super intelligent when he's explaining things. Like you listen to somebody say stuff and it sounds like, oh, they just probably saying something that they heard, compared to people who like trying to really break it down and feed you information, and you like get the sense that this person think they smart. This person think they intelligent. And don't get me wrong, he probably is intelligent in general. But he has these he says these things that is kind of like, oh man, it kind of just baffles me, that he doesn't even realize the things he's saying are so stupid. Anyways, so now to the main conversation, the NBA Finals. I'm gonna let you have this, man.
Bro, I'm ecstatic, man. We up 2-0. No Adebayo, no Dragic. Man, we initially talked about it. I picked it in 6. Man, I think we're gonna sweep them. And
Yeah,
not a knock to Miami. They can't do it. I mean, with no Adebayo and no Dragic, they just don't have enough. We gonna pull away every time when it gets late. I mean, the dudes are just tired. I'm ecstatic. I'm happy. Number 17's coming. But bro, it's gonna be a cakewalk, man. I mean, we finna cruise. I see number
I
3
mean,
tonight. I see us going up 3-0 tonight.
you're right. I mean, I definitely could see a sweep in the future because without Dragic and Adebayo, that does changes things tremendously. I'm still gonna go with 5 because that's just my pick. But Tuesday, this is probably going to be over. If they win today, which following the game, they tied. 80 been sitting out because he already got 2 early fouls, and this is with 80 sitting on the bench most of the first quarter with 0 points and like 2 rebounds, and the game is tied. So he gonna be coming in soon, and you already know what that's gonna look like. A game not even tied no more, up by 1. So
Right.
yeah, I would have loved for a much more competitive series. But the thing is like when your team is the team that's in the finals, you don't want it to be competitive because it's nerve wracking.
Right.
You want it to be easy. Now, if the people that's not fans of the teams that just want to see a good series, they disappointed because
Right.
they're
Right.
like, "Oh man, this
It's
is the
some
finals. This is
bullshit.
bull." Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you're a Lakers fan, you happy. You
Right.
happy to the bug. Like forget that. I don't care about going no 5, 6, 7 games. I want it to be a blowout every game, and I want us to win the first 4 so we can say we got that trophy, we got another ring. So I'm good with it.
Concur. I agree
I'm
100%.
good with it. Don't run my pressure up by taking it to a game 7. I don't want to see none of that.
I
Um,
totally agree. I agree 100%, brother. And look, take it from me. You are right. I
yeah,
have been happy to see these blowouts. I am not wanting to look. Look, I ain't tripping. I ain't one of those people that, oh man, I want us to have some No, I want to win. I don't care if look, the easier the better. That's
exactly.
how I look at it.
You don't coach the game to say we want to win by 2 points. You
Right.
coach to win. You coach
We
to
want
win.
to
And if
annihilate
you
them.
can get up 10, 15, that's why you see those coaches on the sidelines. You up 30, and then the team get like 10 points in a row, and now you up 20, and the coach get mad, call a timeout. That's because they don't want it to get close. They getting
Right.
upset. I like a 30-point lead. Let's keep it there.
Right. Right.
But anyways, but yeah, this is I want to talk more about what does this mean for LeBron's legacy because we already knew that he was gonna win this when he got to for the most part once the Clippers lost, everybody was confident that the Lakers was gonna win a championship
Hmm.
this year because that was really the question that most people had is you know who's going to come out of the West between the Lakers and the Clippers. And of course, people felt like the Bucks were going to be a option to win the championship prior to Miami doing what they did. But LeBron wins this. What does this say for his legacy? What does it say for just in general about him and what he's accomplished in his career?
Honestly, for me, it does absolutely nothing. His legacy was already solidified to me. I don't think all he's doing is building the accolades up at this point. To me, he's already arguably the number 1, 2 player, best top 2 best players to ever play. Top 3 if you want to throw somebody else in there, just have a contrarian pick. But I don't think his legacy is gonna be hurt or was gonna be helped or hurt if he won this if he lost or won this championship. I think it's stamped. It's already stamped. It's
Yeah.
sealed, signed, sealed, delivered. I don't think there's anything that LeBron can do to hurt or help his legacy anymore at this point.
Yeah. I agree, and I when I think about his legacy, you're right. His legacy in general is already cemented in history. I guess most people think about the Jordan and LeBron debate, which I've said this before. I don't like comparing people in different eras. I would always choose LeBron over Jordan because I feel like any team I put LeBron on, he's going to make that team better. Um, and I don't feel that same way about Jordan as a player, but I do feel like Jordan is the greatest of all time. Simply because I just give him the accomplishments, being 6-0, blah blah blah. But I like LeBron as better as a player, and I think what this does for me, in my personal opinion about LeBron, is I think it puts him closer to Jordan when it comes to the greatest of all time. Because this is his 10th finals. He's about to have 4 championships. LeBron got at least, at least 2 more years in him. The way he's playing, he got 2 more years in him. Right. And let's say he wins 2 more championships. Let's say he 3-peats. And he has 6 championships now, and he has 13 finals appearances, or would it be 12 finals appearances? Like, the fact that you've been 12 times and you won half of the times you went there, I'm sorry. You can't just look at somebody and say, oh, they 6-0. And that's it. Like, now this person has just as many championships, but they've been there double the amount of times that you went. So now it's really, to me, a conversation. Maybe to other people, the thought that people have when they say, oh, he's undefeated in the finals. So what? Like, to me, you didn't make the finals every year. So that means something. And then they say, well, once he got there, he always got there. So what? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, he didn't get there every year still. And when you really think about it, the stiffest competition that he would have ever played in his career, he never got to play. He didn't get to play he did play. He played the Celtics in the playoffs when they was at their peak, at their best. He beat them when they was old, but at their best, he played them in the playoffs, and they wiped the floor with them. And he never got to play the Lakers in the finals when they were at their best. He played the Lakers when they were older, and he lost twice to the Pistons. So like, that's one of the arguments that people have, is when he played against teams that were supposed to be better than them, they beat him. When he played against teams that he was better than, as far as his team was better than, they won. So, I feel like it's so many factors that go into that. And it's not saying that he was better or worse than LeBron. As I think people don't look at the situation the way that it should be properly looked at. Even if you look at, the competition he played, I heard somebody say something like, against the Utah Jazz, they talking about they had a big 3, and it's John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Jeff Hornacek.
What?
Jeff Hornacek. A big 3. And I feel like when people say stuff like that, that's just to put Jordan in a higher place. It's like put his championship in a higher place than what it really should be. They were favored to beat the Utah Jazz. They were favored to beat Seattle Supersonics. They were favored to beat all the teams that they played in the finals. They were the only team that I have to think about was that Lakers team they beat that first year when they beat the Lakers and they beat Magic and that group, which I said, like, again, they were older, but outside of that, they were favored. He should have won, So anyways, I don't want to keep getting into that, but I think what this 4th ring does for me is it puts him more in that conversation of greatest of all time, not best of all time. He's best of all time in my opinion already. Greatest of all time when it comes to actual accolades and accomplishments and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it goes back to what I said about his legacy and what it does for it, or what it doesn't do for it. Regardless of how many more he wins or don't win, people are still going to make the same argument you just made.
You're right.
Why Jordan is better, or why LeBron's better, or why vice versa he's not. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. At this point, no matter what LeBron does, you're still going to have people who are going to sit there and say, he ain't better than Jordan. Jordan wins 6-0. It don't matter what he does. That's why, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what he does from this point on, as far as what his legacy pertains to. It's already an argument of who's the GOAT. That doesn't. Only thing that happens is if he wins those 6 championships, it just makes the argument that much better. But people are still going to argue it, no matter what.
You're right. I wonder if he won the next 10 championships and 5 of those championships, he broke his leg and it was broke for 5 straight years and never healed, but he still won the championships. And in doing so, he shot 100% from the field and had 10 steals a game. Would they say he was better than Jordan?
No, they would not. They still would not.
But anyways, anything else you got before we get out of here, man? This is a short show. It's even though it's a lot of sports going on, You know, the majority of our sports comes from our fantasy on Wednesdays. And, you know, I don't know if you noticed, to our viewers out there, you know, we kind of changed up the format the last few Mondays, I mean, we kind of like did a little game recap, but we decided to keep it more news friendly and talk about what's actually going on in sports on this edition. And then our Friday edition is going to be our fantasy edition, you know. So if there's anything you guys want to talk about, if you want to be a featured on the show, you know, you feel like you got some sports knowledge, you want to come on here and talk with us, we here for that too. You know what I'm saying? So hit us up. Hold this L podcast at yahoo.com. Anything else you got before we get out of here?
Oh no, bro, I'm good, man. I'm good.
All right. You know, we usually don't do a Hold This L segment on Monday's edition, but because it's going to be old news by the time we get to Friday, Kyrie Irving, go ahead and hold this L. I'm not even going to explain why, because we already talked about why. But you need to hold this L, because when we get back for Friday, we're going to have some new people to hold the L, and we don't want to bring up old stuff.
I second that one. I second that completely.
So that's all we got for y'all today. We appreciate y'all. Please like, subscribe, follow us, share with your friends and family. We appreciate the love that we've been getting from y'all. And again, this is Hold This L. I'm Cappel.
I'm Lonnie.
And we out.
Peace.